everybody, welcome to Facebook Live with me, Alisa Vitti, founder of FLO Living, creator of the MyFLO app, author of the new book, In the Flow. I hope you've all been checking it out, reading it. Thank you all for writing all your amazing comments on Amazon about the book. I read them all, and I'm so glad that you're enjoying it. I really enjoyed writing it. I am here today to talk about hormonal acne. It's such a problem. It's near and dear to my heart because it's something that I used to struggle terribly with. And we're going to talk all about it today and what causes it and what to do and answer some of your questions. So please say hello, introduce yourself, let me know where you're tuning in from and what you're struggling with your skin, so I can get to know you a little bit while we're here together during this time. Hi Adi, nice to see you. Curious where you are living, because we have women from around the world. I'm really proud of the fact that I've been able to build the first truly global women's hormonal healthcare platform, and we take care of women from every continent, and I'm just really proud of that because it's time. It's time for women to have easier hormonal healthcare, and so I'm just on a mission to do that. So hey Anya from Denmark, hey everybody, welcome. So we're going to talk about acne today. It's no fun. Hey Danelle from Vancouver. I'm just going to make sure my phone is on silent because you never know. Yep, it's not. Okay, great. So, let's do that. Okay. So for those of you who know my story from my first book, Woman Code, you know that I used to struggle with horrendous cystic acne all over my face, my chest, and my back. Like, it would take me, back in the day, I used to use a Prescriptives foundation under eye concealer, but I wouldn't just use it under my eyes. It was the only thing that was thick enough that I could use to cover my whole, anything that was red on my face. So I often would look, like a super pale version of myself because of all that, the under eye concealer is a little, paler than your real skin color. It was not a good look. So I just had that all the time as a result of my PCOS. And so, it can be really frustrating and definitely weighs on your, just how you feel about yourself, and also how much money you have to spend to deal with it. It's just so frustrating how much money women are forced to waste because we haven't been given a proper education about how our bodies work. Think about all the products you have tried to fix your acne, and like the topical stuff really doesn't do very much to truly heal hormonal acne. So it's just frustrating that we don't necessarily always know what the right information is. All right, so let me just look and see. So Adi has hormonal acne and ovarian cyst. You've been struggling. Okay. Oh, thanks, Candace. Yeah, I've never colored my hair, and it's just going gray, but in kind of like this frosty kind of way. Comes out more with certain colors, I think, like lavender. I haven't decided what to do about it yet. I keep thinking about it. Do I want to use hair print? So of course I wouldn't use a chemical-based dye, but hair print is non-toxic and it's like 5 degrees. You guys should check it out. I've never used their product, but I remember when it came out, I was really thrilled to see something that was totally non-toxic. I just have never colored my hair, so I don't know, it's a little, the fear of the unknown. So sometimes I go back and forth about, do I want to do it? Do I not want to do it? So far, I have not done it, so thank you. Hey, Ansley. All right. So, Charlotte, great question. Love the book. How is hormonal acne different during ovulation and versus the luteal phase? All right, I'll get to that Jen had it terribly in her 20s, didn't clear it up till she cut out gluten. We'll talk about the gut connection. Hi, Holly. Oh, I'm so glad. You love which book now? Now there are two. Which book is it that you love? The new one? She's so pretty. I love this. I love the cover. It's a great story about the cover. Anyway, it's for another time. But the long story short is we had another cover that we were going to go with, and then another designer came out with this cover, and I wasn't sure because I had already had my mind locked into this other cover. And my friend Whitney Tingle, who is one of the co-founders of Sakara Life, we were on an event together at a conference flying back from California. This is before everything. And I showed her the side-by-side photos, and she said 100%. You know, she has such great taste. I said, okay. And it wasn't just her, but she really was like, you gotta make this choice. This is the right one. So, you know, I really appreciate my community of really smart sisters to help guide me when I may not know always the right path to take. So it's great to have that support. Okay, so hormonal acne. Why does it happen? Well, essentially, when you move from ovulation into that luteal phase, because you have this sort of sudden drop of estrogen, and then you have a rise in testosterone, it can stimulate the sebaceous glands to produce more oil. And then if you have that coupled with estrogen dominance during the luteal phase, you can have lots of inflammation in the skin, on the skin. The other thing that can happen is that you can have naturally occurring high levels of androgens, which are male hormones. And of course, research suggests that the oil glands in your skin actually act as their own independent endocrine glands. So they respond to messages from your hormones like testosterone and cortisol. So that's the other thing, stress. We always hear about stress in the skin, but for those of you who have PCOS, or for those of you who have a sense that you may be having high levels of androgen, or you've done some research on that and you think that that may be something that's happening for you, that could be very much connected to your skin flare-ups. I know that was certainly something that was at play for me as well. And then stress, cortisol levels also stimulate the endocrine gland-like behavior of those sebaceous glands, the oil glands in your skin, and can cause them to become hyperactive. And it's very difficult to, or it feels like it's very difficult to stop that train once it's out of the station, because then it just becomes this cycle of ongoing stimulation. So, you know, acne is really, when we think about it, not, you know, a result of things that you put on your skin or using pore blocking products, although that certainly can contribute to it. It's hormonal acne is really about the imbalance that you may be dealing with your hormones. And so it's a good piece of biofeedback if you're having breakouts. You know, this is why I always tell you to track every day in the MyFLO app. And for those of you who don't know what the MyFLO app is, it's the app that I designed. It's got the circle for the icon, just like this book, not the feather. Don't be confused. And so the MyFLO app, you're going to track different types of acne that show up throughout the month, and it's going to tell you exactly why that might be happening, so that you can really start to understand what's going on for you, what's driving it. So, you know, this also can happen at different times throughout your hormonal lifespan, right? Meaning you could have acne as a teenager, but your hormones, you know, this idea that our hormones get to this place of stasis, or like that they get to some perfect place, is a little bit disempowering for you to have as a goal in your mind. What you want to do is be responsive, because you are designed to have real hormonal fluctuations throughout your lifespan, right? Meaning you're going to have puberty, then you're going to be in your young adult years, then you're going to be maybe pregnant, then you're going to be postpartum, then you're going to be perimenopausal stage 1, perimenopausal stage 2. postmenopausal, right? All of these hormonal fluctuations are baked into your lifespan. And then you could have hormonal imbalance within them on top of the normal hormonal fluctuations that could create some sort of skin issue. Then you also can have things that you're doing within that particular phase of your life to make your hormones less balanced, which of course you're learning what not to do by reading books like Woman Code and In the Flow, and also doing our programs and things. So I think that it's just something to keep in mind, that you don't want to have the mindset of what you've had all along, which is like, you know, it comes from the toxic diet culture. It's like, okay, you're going to be good, be perfect, restrict your calories, work out really hard, do all the right things until you lose those 5 pounds. And then you're going to go back to your normal life, right? That is not a mindset that is going to serve you when it comes to maintaining healthy hormonal balance throughout your life, because the month fluctuates, then, you know, your life fluctuates, then the phase of your life shifts, right? One decade you're 20, one decade you're 40, right? So you have to learn to dance. Oh, I love that. I just thought you have to learn to dance. I want to teach you how to dance with your hormones. That's really what I'm trying to do. I haven't thought of that analogy before. You have to learn how to dance and be nimble on your feet, as opposed to what, you know, give me the thing I have to do today. I'll do it for a week. I'll do it for a month. And then once I've achieved this perfect thing, perfect skin, perfect weight, perfect hormones, then I'll go back to my normal life. We got to let that go. We got to let that go. That sort of like doesn't serve what's really happening in your biochemistry. It's constantly in flux, and so should your behavior in relationship to it be. So someone just brought up a question about spironolactone. I'm going to talk about all of these conventional treatments now and why they really don't work, and actually what some of the serious side effects are of them. And then I'm going to talk about my favorite 5 supplements for skin. And of course, any other questions that you have. So conventional treatments, you know, when I had acne, I had a dermatologist. This was in my teen years. And I mean, there were antibiotics that I took. There was Retin-A. There was other stuff. I remember she wanted me to use on my skin that was some sort of combination of something. I don't remember it now. Didn't work. Anyway, nothing worked, you know, was the point. The antibiotics did work a little bit, but they destroyed my gut. They destroyed my immune response. I remember being sick constantly, getting constant upper respiratory infections and virus, you know, whatever was going around, I would get it and get it hard, and my immune system would take a long time to recover. And of course, continuously taking these antibiotics for my skin, it wasn't good. It was not a good situation. All chronic yeast infections. I mean, I remember really going through the ringer with my health and my immunity, and no one really understanding why or connecting those dots. So, you know, that may have happened to you. If it has, I'm sorry. The gut disruption is something that took a long time to recover from, so be very cautious about that. Let's talk about the first line of skin medication that most people will prescribe you if you have hormonal acne, and that is the birth control pill, right? So what this does, and it's really important to know that there are pills, there's versions of birth control, whether they're pill or not. There's versions of birth control that have higher levels of androgens, and then there's versions of birth controls that block the, androgens in the body. And so depending on which one you go on, the withdrawal from the medication, so either the medication itself or the device or the implant can actually create acne if it has an androgenic effect. Or if you're using the ones that have this anti-androgenic effect, it really can shrink your sebaceous glands to prepubescent levels. And then when you go off the medication, everyone fears that skin rebound. And that's a real thing, because now your body, the sebaceous glands are going to go back to adult size, and you're going to have the androgens coming back online. So it's not a great situation. And in addition, the pill or any of these medications, birth control medications, are going to strip your body, deplete your body of key micronutrients that keep the skin healthy and acne free. But also, again, that medication has been shown to act like an antibiotic in the gut, and is going to then cause you to have gut dysfunction, which will then make recovery even more challenging. Yes, copper IUD can affect you as well, but less so, more the Mirena. What I would say is, if you are on any form of birth control, to please email support@FLO Living and ask for our birth control rehab guide. It is free. You can just have it, learn about what you need to know when you're dealing with the effects of being on that medication, and doing that successfully without all the side effects. Antibiotics, as I talked about, they can work, obviously, because they're talking about, especially if you have blackheads and that kind of bacterial acne. But when you come off of it, the acne can return much worse. And you've disrupted your gut and your immune response, including the immune system of the skin. And so, it's a short-term tool, but it's not fixing what's imbalanced. And I guess that's really the thing. You have to look inside yourself and decide what side of that fence you personally fall on, right? Do you want something that's just going to address it right now? Or are you more motivated to understand what's causing it at the root cause level and addressing that, so that you don't need the crutch or the tool or the medication? And it's okay whichever one you want. I'm here more to talk about how to get on that other side of the fence, where you're dealing with the root cause and then you don't need all these other things. You can really use foods and supplements to really support yourself. But you gotta really listen to yourself and understand where you fall in that category. Then there's spironolactone or aldactone. It's a steroid medication. It's not like any of the hormones that your body produces. It disrupts your body's production of testosterone by confusing your body with a synthetic and similar but different enough version of it. And what's ironic about it is that actually the use of spironolactone can trigger estrogen dominance. So it can also increase your risk for depression, blood clots, and some increased risk for some cancers. It's not safe to take long term. And obviously, with any of these medications, there's all sorts of risks for birth defects. So if you're on spironolactone, I believe you also have to be on birth control as well, which then you've got this double whammy of medications. Then, of course, there's isotretinoin, also known originally as Accutane. This one also definitely causes birth defects, so you have to be on hormonal birth control. But there are other things to know about that. It at the beginning makes the acne worse, and creates a lot of increased rates of depression in the people who use it. The actual original patented drug Accutane was removed from the market because many, not some, many users developed inflammatory bowel disease, and the use of the drug was associated with an increased risk of suicide. Again, anytime when we have disruption in the gut, keeping in mind that 95% of the serotonin that your brain has access to for balancing your moods is produced in your gut. Anything that you're going to take that's going to disrupt your gut health is going to end up with increasing feelings of depression. I know when I was, also as a result of my PCOS, but also all that overexposure to antibiotics and having had my gut microbiome so disrupted, that was a key root cause of the depression that I experienced in those years. And so, and it's night and day when your gut is back online and you're producing serotonin. You just don't have the same lows for those extended periods of time. So it's pretty important to just know what you might be getting into before you say yes to a conventional treatment. And that's why I wanted to just walk you through it today. And I think the other thing that's really frustrating too is if you go down the road of taking the conventional treatments, right, you may get that short-term relief from the symptom, but because you haven't addressed the root cause, eventually you're going to have to get off any of these medications, because at some point you're going to potentially want to have children, and you cannot be taking birth control or steroids or spironolactone or Accutane or antibiotics while you're pregnant. It's not really recommended, or dangerous, in fact. And so when you get off of it, then you still have to go and do the work that I'm going to suggest that you do now anyway. So why not do that at the beginning when things have not become so progressed in the body, right? When you have a chance to recover more quickly. The younger you are, the more quick the recovery, in my experience. So I also think that that's just from you sort of thinking through how do you want to approach this skin issue. I would say everything is like cooking in a lot of ways. I always find that the analogy of like adding salt to soup is I use this a lot, right? Meaning you can always add more salt. You can always escalate your treatment protocols, right? But you should start with the least amount of salt in the soup and then taste and adjust as you go. Less is more. That's why I think it's always so great that your first step should be diet and supplementation and lifestyle changes, because if you need to escalate from there, you can. De-escalating from exposure to all of these conventional treatments is a lot more work in the other direction to recover and then to try to actually restore your skin health. So I think it's just really important to think through that logic. Megan is asking about what is the mechanism behind increased acne during ovulation. Well, it has to do with, again, the sebaceous glands functioning like their own little endocrine glands, and they're responding to that estrogen. Now, normally estrogen during ovulation gives your skin a healthy glow. So for example, I'm in my, what date is it? Yeah, I'm in the first half of my luteal phase now. So, a few days ago when I was ovulating, I had my ovulation glow, and then I really could see it in my skin from a, dewy point of view when the estrogen surge had ended prior to estrogen picking back up in the first half of the luteal phase. And now I'm sort of in that for stage 1 luteal phase skin glow that it can feel the estrogen's effect on my skin. So the balanced amounts of estrogen give you that, that ovulation glow. I also notice it in the first stage of the luteal phase, so you can watch out for it too. When you have too much estrogen, the skin sebaceous glands can become overactive and you can break out, right? And so that's why we would want to use some liver detoxifiers, which I suggest in the MyFLO app. Things like cilantro and flax will help the liver, not just the liver, but also the large intestine. So the liver will be supported by the cilantro, and then the large intestine will be supported by the flax. The liver needs to break down that estrogen more quickly, and then the flax will help you push it out through the bowel. But everything that you're eating, if you are using the cycle syncing method that I, have pioneered for you in the book, this is in the FLO, and it's the first book to talk about your infradian rhythm and how skin your skin changes during the infradian rhythm, right? You have thicker skin and thinner skin. There's different products. I'll do a whole nother Facebook Live about the infradian rhythm and your skin and which products to use and how to support the skin changing throughout the month. But you know, if you're eating the foods that are part of the ovulation week recommended foods, that is really going to be the best thing to support your liver, to give it the widest variety of micronutrients that it needs to do that extra bit of liver detoxification for estrogen, because you have the biggest surge you're going to have the entire month during those few days of ovulation. And so if you're seeing acne, that's a good sign of estrogen dominance. Now, someone is asking about constipation during ovulation. So again, any constipation. So the only time that you should technically notice a little slower transit time in the bowel movements is the week before your period, and here's why. The progesterone levels that show up during the luteal phase technically slow down bowel activity. But if you're eating the foods, again, that are recommended in the cycle syncing method, in the new book, in the app, in our membership, the FLO 28 cycle syncing membership, then you're going to counteract that and counterbalance that, so you should not experience any noticeable constipation. Any constipation that you're having, especially during ovulation when you should be having very effortless bowel movements, is just a sign that something is not working with your diet and you've got to change up what you're eating. So that's important. Let's see. Let me see if I can ask some questions here. Philomena is asking about her daughter. What can your daughter use as birth control? She's 16 and her skin is not so good either. Okay, so Philomena, what I would suggest is that you have, maybe you share with your 16-year-old daughter the new book, because if you could get her this information at 16, it will transform the trajectory of her future decisions about her health and the relationship she has with her body. I think that for someone who has a pre-existing condition like type 1 diabetes, you might want to tread more cautiously about adding in any additional medication that manipulates hormones. But that's not my area of expertise. But what I would say is, if you want to use a non-hormonal version of birth control, then you'd have to start having really frank conversations with her about how to verbally negotiate herself and stand up for herself and protect herself from a pregnancy prevention standpoint. And here's what I mean by that. This is a little off topic, but just because I can appreciate how tricky and nerve-wracking this must be as a parent. I myself have a 5-year-old daughter, so I'm imagining how I would do this too. And I have no idea where this came from in me to do this, but here's an example. When I was on one of my early dates with my now husband, I said something to him like, listen, at some point I'm going to want to have, sex with you at some point. And in order for me to feel comfortable doing that, I'm going to need you to provide me with your latest medical report for STIs. Just really matter of fact, just really friendly like, that, because that was my condition for my comfort level. And he gave me, and I would always say that to anybody that I might be engaging with. And he gave me the best answer I've ever gotten, which was, what kind of a jerk would I be if I didn't have that emailed to you first thing in the morning? I was like, exactly. Exactly. Thank you. So on the one hand, you need to empower. It's not just about telling her that she needs to use protection. It's teaching her how to have the confidence and the centeredness to advocate for herself not just around, asking questions about this other person, which can feel much more overwhelming as a teenager, but then also advocating for, like, if there's no protection, there's no activity. And I think that having that from a young age, of like a hard line of what your boundaries are, teaching her to have boundaries is the thing that I think you want to be focusing on, is really the goal. And then when you're talking about her skin, once you get her educated about her infradian rhythm and the cycle, she's going to want to start using the cycle syncing method to clear up her skin and to optimize her health. So, I think that, getting her started on this information now versus later is really important. And then just empowering her to be a staunch self-advocate for her own safety and well-being above people-pleasing anyone else or making things nice for someone else, making sure that they're nice for herself first. And I hope that I read your question the right way about, what other forms of birth control can she use? She can use all the other barrier methods that you can think of. But if you want her not to use synthetic birth control, you also not just need to empower her to know which of those barrier methods to use. You need to truly, to get to the root cause, so to speak, of making sure she's protected, teaching her how to stand up for her boundaries. Can't stress that enough. Because we don't get taught that as women. We get taught to just do what everybody wants, and then that ends up not being so good for us, right? Okay. Holly is asking a question. You've only read the first book so far. Do I start with the advice there, and once on track, use the second book? You got it, sister. That's right. So if you have a diagnosed condition like PCOS or fibroids or endometriosis or something going on with your period, some major dysfunction, I would have you start with Woman Code, do the FLO protocol, and then once you're balanced, start using the cycle syncing method to stay balanced, right? That's the whole purpose of that. Let's see. Yeah, I'd love some feedback, especially from Philomena about that whole tangent that we took. I want to make sure that served your question, and thank you for those who are feeling empowered by it, because I want you to use it in your own life as well. Doesn't just work and it works for women of all ages. Standing up for your boundaries in any situation is the key. Okay. Oh my goodness, it's almost 2:00. Let me talk you through some of the, let's see here. Sophia's asking a question about my thoughts on coconut oil. You have it every day, good for the microbiome. Yes, it's rich in lauric acid, but others say it's bad, high in saturated fat. Listen, everything in moderation. Everything in moderation. I am one of those people that when you look at the science and the research over the years, it is not ever the extreme stuff that gets people the healthiest the longest. It's the blue zone types of diets, right? So if you want to really look at what I mean by moderation, look at what people do in the blue zones. They have lots of things that you would think would be unhealthy, but because it's in moderation, and it's in the context of an entire life that is, rich in social connection and healthy living and outside activity, walking, physical activity, it's so important to look at it as a whole picture. So I never approach food as, it's a no-no, or this is perfect. There's no, aside from plants, but even some plants, if you eat too much broccoli, that can disrupt your thyroid. So, you know what I mean? Everything, even broccoli, in moderation, turns out. Ebony is asking a question about, you can't start the cycle syncing method while on the pill. So in the book, I answer that question, in the new book, In the Flow. What I will say is, you can, just to get yourself in the habit, but you are not actually having a cycle. You are not actually experiencing the full infradian rhythmic effect in your body. So the pill suppresses the whole thing. It, in fact, in a way, shuts off that second clock. And so you just really want to think through that. And that's why it's so important to read the book and read up on what you're missing out on from a health point of view by suppressing that second clock. So I think that's really important. Caroline's asking a question. If you're struggling with digestive issues and you have confirmed estrogen dominance, yes, I would recommend the FLO protocol from the first book, Woman Code. And our program at the FLO Living Center called Monthly Flow would really help you address that. Ebony, yes, you want to get off the pill, but you haven't read it all the way. Good, get to reading. There's also an audiobook, and I read the audiobook, so if that is something that would be more delightful to you, there's that too. Let's see. Okay, there's so many good questions. Okay, I'm going to try to answer some of them, but I do want to also deliver the content that I promised you today. Let's see. Lauren's asking a question about breaking up with your dermatologist. Can you say more? What is the relationship that you want to, what is it that you want to stop, for example? You just want to go on, just tell me a little bit more. Give me a little bit more. I'm not sure what you need, but I'm happy to try to think through with you. Let me see if there's other. Okay, Michelle, if you're planning to try to have a baby soonish, should you start with the first or second book? It depends. Do you have a diagnosed menstrual disorder like PCOS, fibroids, endometriosis, etc.? If you do, then I would say start with Woman Code. If you have what we would consider just typical PMS, and some like heavy, annoying period symptoms, then I would start with In the Flow, because the cycle syncing method, will help that. So that's how I would think about it. But if you have something that you're already actively dealing with, and someone asked a question about, let me see if I can scroll up. Is a period that comes regularly every 43 days something to be worried about? Yes, in fact. Worried is a strong word, but I would say it's a biofeedback piece of information that's likely indicative of what we call luteal phase defect. So that means that there's insufficient levels of progesterone to keep the cycle tighter, right? Tighter meaning timeline wise. So you would want to see anything from 25 to 32 days can be considered normal for you, as long as relative to yourself, that is your pattern. Anything that's shorter than 25 days, meaning more frequent, or longer than 32 days, then we're dealing with other more complex hormonal imbalances that require some work. So I would say looking into ways that you can boost your progesterone levels naturally, and that does not mean using progesterone creams or taking synthetic progesterone, but it's about really helping your body, which so many women can resolve their luteal phase defect pretty simply with food and lifestyle changes. Oh, I'm so glad, Sarah, that you listened to the audiobook. Yes, I get really passionate about the infradian rhythm, and if you want to hear me really, really on my soapbox talking about everything that's in the book, the audiobook is a treat. I remember I recorded, just so you know, I recorded that whole thing in 5 days. I was just like, we gotta do this, and it was a beautiful process. In fact, the audio engineer was turned out to be a fan of Woman Code and had known about my work for years. So we just had the most amazing time recording the book together. After I would finish the section, I'd come out and we'd like digest it together, and she was like hearing it for the first time, and just, it was just an amazing experience for me. So there's a lot of that good love and energy in the audiobook, and it's a special memory, and I hope that you enjoy it. So, okay. Rebecca has some serious stuff going on with cysts and the starts of endometriosis. I'm so glad that you found us. Please reach out to the counselors at FLO Living. Please email support@FLOLiving. You can get our endometriosis guide. The sooner you take action, the better. And I think that that's really important. Siridial, I see if I pronounce that right. Perimenopausal, still fairly regular in the flow. The cycle syncing method, okay, is really, really good. Okay, oh, I see. Yeah, I mean, I think you may want to find, maybe there are holistic dermatologists, perhaps. There are certainly, for example, it just may be that you guys have a fundamental difference of approach. So at some point you just have to decide what you want to do. Do you want to continue to pursue these treatments? And if you do, then that's fine. If you want to really go off and see what you can do with a different approach, that's your right to do. You can always go back on the RX protocol that you have with your dermatologist if you want. Okay, Diana, is it normal to experience fatigue? This is turning into like a ask me anything, which is fine. I'm going to do the supplements in a minute, okay? The supplements that you need for your skin. Is it normal to experience fatigue in the last few days of your period? I also experience brown stains toward the end of your period. Yeah, it depends. I mean, again, I'd have to ask you a bunch of questions, but what I would say is fatigue during the last few days of your period could mean that what you're doing is somehow disrupting your infradian rhythm, and that fatigue is a sign for you that your body has gotten pushed too far. You should not feel any noticeable fatigue at any phase of your cycle. And there's some sirens in the background. So if you want to register that as biofeedback, and you want to start to do some sleuthing and look into, well, what has happened? Did I do a high intensity interval training workout past my ovulation into my luteal phase, and now I'm feeling the effects of that in my bleeding days? Did I continue to restrict calories post ovulation, and I'm feeling the effects of that? Are you not getting enough sleep due to progesterone insufficiency, which could cause insomnia and some of that brown staining? So there's many things to start to think about, and you want to figure it out so that you can start doing the right adjustments. And so I think that it's really, really important to more understand the process of recovery than, I want to teach you how to fish, so to speak, because things are always going to change. Jaime Tini, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Hormonal acne that's only on the chin, or also other parts of the face and body like the upper back or the temples? Yes, in Chinese medicine, you can actually Google this. It's called acne mapping on the face in Chinese medicine. There are the regions of the face correspond to different organ systems of the body. So the temples mean different things in the chin. Hormonal acne will typically be more on the jaw and the chin. But I think that, I experienced it everywhere. So I just, think that sometimes, but I was also having multi-system problems from issues from my diet, and antibiotic exposure. Claudia, ciao da Italia. Io sto insegnando la mia figlia un po' di italiano, certo. So she's asking me, why are supplements so necessary in a balanced diet? Can't appropriate organic food satisfy our nutritional hormonal needs? Such a good question. Such an important question. In fact, one I did a lot of digging into, because I, 20 years ago when I started on this journey myself, really wanted to understand why that wasn't the case. Why can't we get everything from food the way that we're supposed to? And it came down to a couple of things, and this is the perspective. This is actually why I ended up launching my own supplement formulations, because of all the things that I learned and wanted to share with you. So first and foremost, the nutrient concentration in modern soil is so poor compared to even 2 generations ago of what was happening. But really, if you would think about 3 or 4 generations ago, they still had it pretty good. But once we had sort of in generations now, I'm not talking about decades, the rise of industrial farming that has sort of really went wild in the United States, at least, less so in other parts of the world, but that really dramatically depleted the soil of the nutrients. And of course, just like how your skin, your hair, everything, your nails look a certain way based on the nutrients you eat, the food is made from the nutrients in the soil, so the quality of the nutrient density in the food is going to be a little less nutrient rich if the soil is nutrient poor, right? That's a good understanding. The other thing is that when the body is remarkably out of balance, right? Meaning you've got something like PCOS or fibroids or endometriosis, or your period is missing, or there's infertility, or something major is going on. Those are major things, right? We all know now, or we should be aware, and if you don't know, please know this, and then also tell a female friend or 5. Your period, at least in 2016, was decreed in the United States by the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecologists as the 5th vital sign, meaning, the other 4 that they take in the ER, your blood pressure, your temperature, etc. Your period is your 5th vital sign. So meaning, if there's a disorder, it's the equivalent of having a disease. If you have even a symptom, that's the equivalent of having a fever, right? And so the point of me making that analogy is so that you understand that what you want to do is take action right away. So when you are having such a massive, imbalance, the ability that is predicated on micronutrient deficiency in the first place, right? Why don't you make enough hormones? Well, if you don't have adequate sources of protein, if you don't have adequate sources of good quality fats, your hormones are manufactured from amino acids that you get from protein sources, and they're stabilized in a lipid ring, think of it like a little life raft, and they're stabilized in this lipid ring. If you're not eating the right amounts of those proteins and fats, you won't make enough of the right quality hormones, right, to get around your body and do what you're supposed to do. And then, for example, each gland, like the thyroid gland or even the liver as an organ, will store micronutrients in their actual tissues in order for them to then rapidly manufacture the thyroid hormone, right? That's why we need iodine, for example, stored in the thyroid on quick measure, as well as an amino acid, because again, all hormones are synthesized from amino acid, L-tyrosine. So a lot of natural supplements to support thyroid health will just give you added micronutrient doses of iodine and L-tyrosine, because you may not be exposed to that naturally in therapeutic enough doses in your daily diet. So that's the sort of third piece, is that the therapeutic dose. So let me finish the thought. Sorry, let me finish my thought on the second piece. So the second piece is that you are likely operating at such a micronutrient deficit once you've had something go wrong with your hormones, that recovering just from food will take a lot longer, and you may not get to that tipping point with your glandular and organ function along the endocrine system. Supplements are an enormously important tool, because it's just therapeutic doses of the micronutrients you would get from foods if they're high quality, right? And that's key. Not all supplements are created equal. That's why I rolled my own, because I am super picky. And I was frustrated actually that a lot of the supplement formulations contained endocrine disruptive things or other fillers or things that were just not good for women's hormones. It's like completely ridiculous. So, if you're interested in learning more about the formulations that I created, you can go to floliving.com/supplements, although you can click on it from the homepage. And we ship everywhere. So if you are living abroad, you can get them anywhere that you live. Okay. Samantha, what you're experiencing is called middle schmerz, pain during ovulation. It's just a sign of estrogen dominance and can be improved with changing your diet. Brandy, congratulations on getting your first period in the first time in over 10 years without medicine. Don't worry about this first time out of the gate. Your body's like coming back online. This is incredible, and just keep going, keep doing the protocol, and you're going to start to, in fact, you may want to transition over to the cycle syncing method piece now that you've gone through that important first 3 steps of the FLO protocol, and so to get your body going. But that's wonderful, great job, just what we like to see. Okay, let me give you these supplements that I promised about what I love for the skin, and thank you for all your beautiful questions. Maybe one of these days I'll just come on and do like an Ask Me Anything, because I love answering all your questions. Okay, so here's my list. Here's what I like for skin. This is what I do. So, I'm always doing the things I'm telling you to do. Why wouldn't I? Why would I not do that? All the research that I do is because first it starts off as some personal quest, and then I share it with everybody else. Okay, so magnesium, magnesium, magnesium. Say it with me. Magnesium. It's, aside from being involved in over 300 catalytic reactions in the body, aside from it being incredibly essential for your whole system to function, including your heart, it is an enormously valuable tool for fighting inflammation. And acne has an inflammatory, aspect to it. So that's one of the key reasons. You can take it with or without calcium, because calcium can also help, because it's part of the matrix of everything in your skin, your bones, etc. And it's important for skin cell renewal. So you can take a magnesium calcium blend if you'd like, but magnesium above all things every day. It's so important that I picked the most bioavailable form called magnesium glycinate and put that in one of the supplements that I formulated, the FLO Living Balance supplement. So it's really, really critical every day. Omega-3s for your skin, incredibly important. Getting enough omega-3s from fish or flax. One of you mentioned even primrose oil. That's also fine as long as you are not pregnant. That can dramatically improve your skin. And so with fish oil, for example, women pretty much recognize right away a sense of feeling softer, clearer, smoother skin. As well as stronger hair and nails in just a few days. So it's pretty dramatic. And again, why? Keep in mind, you remember cell biology? I know my daughter's 5, but I'm eager to teach her some of the things I'm super passionate about. So actually yesterday in the long car ride, I was showing her, I know, I'm such a nerd. I was showing her the 3D image of a cell, so like in a drawing rendering, but a cutaway of the 3D image. So we were looking at the nucleus, and we were looking at the Golgi body, and we were looking at the endoplasmic reticulum. We were looking at all these things, the mitochondria, and we were talking about what the cell does. And I also was talking about the cell membrane. Do you remember the cell membrane being a whole bunch of lipid molecules around the cell, holding the cell together, right? So lipids are in your cells, in the membrane. In fact, this woman 30 years ago, this is why I decided to show it to her yesterday, because I read up on all these science journals, and this remarkable scientist 30 years ago discovered something really important about the junction between the mitochondria and the endoplasmic reticulum, and actually how the endoplasmic reticulum helps create lipids for the mitochondria to use. It's really fascinating, and people completely dismissed her research for the past 30 years, and now they're able to actually see it. So now it's like this new groundbreaking, exciting thing. So since I wanted to celebrate this woman's pioneering research and having been dismissed and all of that, and I shared that with my daughter, and then I showed her the cell. So that's a little backstory, because we got to know our history if we're going to move forward, right? Anyway, so we were looking at that. So the lipid is on every cell, this lipid layer, and then it's everywhere in your skin, it's in your brain, it's everywhere. If you want to have beautiful skin, you've got to make sure that you're replenishing those omega-3 fatty acids, and you want to reduce those omega 6s, that really create a lot of inflammation. So things like canola oil and processed fats. Zinc. Turns out zinc deficiency is a very common issue for women. When we are deficient in zinc, our pores become easily irritated, and bacteria can overgrow. So it's really, really interesting. Zinc supplementation, according to several studies, can be very effective. Not like, oh, it has a little effect. Extremely effective in easing activity compared to antibiotics. So let's see. Take antibiotics, disrupt your gut, or start supplementing with zinc and help clear your skin. I mean, I think that's a no-brainer. Probiotics. Probiotics that actually make it to your gut. The probiotics in the Balance supplements that I created are enterically coated to make it to the small intestine, because most probiotics that are not are going to get basically dissolved and deactivated in the acid of your stomach. So you want them to make it through the stomach into the small intestine, where they can colonize and do all the wonderful proliferation work that the bacteria is meant to do. You need probiotics for a healthy gut. When you have gut dysbiosis, a common side effect of that is going to be acne and other skin issues, even skin issues like rosacea. So it's particularly important that with hormonal acne, that you assist your microbiome in being functional. And also because having that good gut bacteria helps you break down estrogen, and that will help with any mid-cycle acne that comes out because you have your estrogen spike. And of course, if you've been exposed to any of the medications that we talked about in the past, the conventional treatments for your skin, birth control pill, any of those other medications that can disrupt the gut microbiome, you definitely want to be on a long course of probiotics. Sophia's asking, do we still need to take them, probiotics, if we eat fermented foods like kefir, yogurt, and sauerkraut? Well, I would hope that the kefir and yogurt, if you're in the United States, is only goat or sheep kefir or yogurt, because if it's cow dairy in the United States, it's from a particular cow that creates only A1 casein protein that creates tiny little microscopic tears in the small intestine, which create leaky gut, which creates inflammation, which will completely negate and worsen. Like, there's no value. So good, only goat. If you're in Europe, this is less of a concern because you guys do not use the same cow that they use here in the United States. And then the second part of the question, Sophia, is if you're using that, if you still have acne, then the answer is yes, you need more probiotics, because there could be some historical situation in the past, exposure to something that disrupted your gut that you haven't recovered from. But if there's no acne and you're using fermented foods, then you may not necessarily need to use them. You just have to look and see. I love to use them. Okay, yes, Daniela, the FLO supplements will have you covered, and I'll talk about that in a minute. B vitamins. Your skin needs B vitamins to regenerate and renew itself. So B vitamins. You need B vitamins for everything hormonal. You need B6 to make progesterone. You need B5 to help your adrenals balance your cortisol levels. You need the B vitamins to help with premenstrual acne. Vitamin Bs help prevent skin inflammation and overproduction of oil by the sebaceous glands. B vitamins, and they're water soluble, so you have to take them every day because you flush them out through urine and sweat. And so I think that it's really, really important. The FLO Balance supplements contain all of these skin healing micronutrients. Because why? Not because I wanted to make supplements that are specifically about the skin. I did extensive research to figure out what are the micronutrients that your endocrine system needs, your gut, everything to function at its at an optimal level, to just make sure that it has those micronutrients it needs to even be able to do its job. And that's what's in the FLO Balance supplements. I just, that's what I take. It's what I love. You're going to have your B vitamins in Energize. You're going to have your omega-3s. You're going to have your amazing probiotics in Gutsy. You're going to have everything to help support the liver, breaking down estrogen in the detox. Trying to think if I'm going to just pull them up really quick so I can remember everything. Here we go. And you are going to have, replenish for your magnesium for your skin. So it's all in there. And what about multivitamin versus this? I'm personally not a fan of multivitamins simply because when vitamins are all mixed together, sometimes they become not bioavailable. So, and you don't technically get equal therapeutic levels of things to make things bioavailable. So I think that it is important. Edita, no, you would not take these while you're pregnant. This is, you would do your prenatals and all of that while you're pregnant. These are for your non-pregnant times, the FLO Balance supplements. So I would definitely encourage you, if you have skin issues, to give these a try. In fact, if you go to the blog, there is a photo, there are several photos of a woman who started taking the Balance supplements for 3 weeks and then also showed a photo of herself after 4 months of taking them. And she did the before and after at the 3 week mark and at the 4 month mark. It is remarkable with the night and day difference with the skin when you give your body the micronutrients it needs. What can happen. So I encourage you to pick those up if you're dealing with acne, just because it makes everything so convenient. And I think that can be so helpful. If you do decide to purchase the Balance supplements today, I want to celebrate your taking action to do something for yourself. And so you will get my favorite 4-day hormone detox to help your liver get supercharged to break down that estrogen. You're going to get 2 of my master classes. One is Get Clear Skin for Real masterclass with me, and you're also going to get a Beat the Monthly Bloat masterclass, because we're going to talk a lot about the gut there. So if you order those, and you just need to email support@FLO Living and show your purchase receipt for the Balance supplements, and then you'll get everything sent to you. You have to do that by Friday. I think today's Thursday. Yeah, so by Friday. So by tomorrow, midnight tomorrow, if you make the purchase, you'll get all those great bonuses. So do take advantage of it, because we get a lot of wonderful testimonials and feedback from women on the supplements that they really do help their skin. Jeanette, if you're already taking the supplements and still have some acne, then I would suggest it's time for you to have a consultation with one of the FLO coaches to start to really dig into what else is going on. We may need to look at what's happening with your diet, with past exposure, with current stress levels, etc. So I think that it's really, really important to have an official conversation to figure out what is happening. And that's, again, why I built the FLO Living online hormone healthcare platform, right? Because you sometimes need a little support, sometimes you need more, sometimes you need individual, sometimes you can do it on your own by following the online program or listening to me in a Facebook Live. But I wanted you to have the ability to have as much or as little as you need, and so please lean into the support that we have there. Everything is so affordable when you compare it to other functional medicine kind of stuff. And so we want to really support your process and get to the bottom of it, Jeanette, because it certainly sounds like you've been dedicated. So however we can continue to help you, let's figure that out. Rebecca, you can't swallow pills. I don't know. I don't know. Can they be crushed? I suppose some of them could be, but some of them can't, because some of them are gel caps. Let me think about that. I don't know. I always find that really interesting about the swallowing of the pills, because if you, just so you know, for your own perspective, when you swallow a portion of food, it is much larger than a pill. So I share this because I'm now giving this sort of thought process to my daughter, because I want her to start being able to swallow some little tiny supplements. And so sometimes she'll do it by accident and be like, oh, I did it. I swallowed my fish oil. Other times she'll chew it. So, you know, I think a little bit is the getting the mind piece there, but, you know, I understand that that is for sure can be a block to doing it. But I'm wondering if maybe just looking at some of the straightforward nature of, like, whatever you're swallowing with food is much, you know, incomparably larger than the pill. So something to think about. Okay. Whew, we got through so much information today, and lots of other questions that were not about acne. So I am so glad that you guys shared some of those questions with me. I'll be back on next week as well to do another Facebook Live, so you can find me there. Let me see what time. I think, well, it'll come out in the email. Oh, Alexa, are these supplement things to take forever? You know, I personally feel that for me, micronutrient support is a key part of staying balanced and healthy. That's why we call them balance. And especially as you go through the vicissitudes of life, like the normal ups and downs of life stress. I mean, God, we're all in a lot of stress right now with this whole COVID thing and everything that's going on in the world. Your lifestyle, your life cycle changes, right? So meaning the transition from preparing yourself for pregnancy, recovering postpartum, going through perimenopause, adjusting to your postmenopausal life. You're going to want to be using supplementation to assist the body in functioning optimally, because we live in an environment that is increasingly toxic, and we have access to foods that are less nutrient dense. So I think that it is something to start thinking about. Plus, all the research really does indicate that micronutrients are critical for our health. So I think that that is something to start looking into and making some decisions for yourself about how you want to do it, right? Ultimately, you're in charge of what you do with your health and with your body, as it should be. And so my hope is to provide information that helps you start to take the driver's seat for yourself, right? There's no, you've got to make the decision for yourself. Yes, Danielle, I'm going to answer Daniela's question. You like to go all in to any new program? Yes, definitely Monthly Flow and the supplements for your PCOS is a great place to start. I think that's really, really, really important. Okay, Alexa, I'm glad that you are feeling like I answered your question. All right, good. Ladies, thank you for spending so much time with me. Yes, someone brought up, like, when are these lives? They sometimes fluctuate. Sorry about the noise. I can't remember what time I'm going to be on next week, because I have a ton of podcasts that I'm recording for you all to enjoy, meaning I'll be a guest on a bunch of new shows. But if you're signed up for our newsletter, which you can do at the homepage, on the homepage, flowliving.com, you will get notifications about when the upcoming lives are, because we send out reminders. We also are texting people, so make sure you can sign up for those notifications too. So there's lots of ways to stay connected to when the lives are happening. But yes, once things get more settled with my schedule, I'll try to do these on a precise day and time every week. But I think next week should be around the same day and time. Stay tuned. All right, I'll look forward to talking with you then. I hope for those of you who are going to take advantage of this wonderful bonus gift with the balance purchase, make sure that you email support at FLO Living, and then you share your balance supplement receipt, and then you'll get all the bonuses. All right, ladies, have a beautiful rest of your day or evening, Have a beautiful weekend, and I'll see you next week. And I hope that your skin starts responding the way that you would like it to very, very soon. All right. Until then, take really good care of yourselves. Talk to you later.